I'm really conflicted in a way. I can see that AI is, right now it's very helpful in generating many different ideas on anything. You've seen that. I both like it and hate it at the same time. Sort of like how I feel about the phone. Everything is like this. Wouldn't I be a lot better without the phone? And I am a fan of AI, but I would not cede to it the ultimate judgment. What you think is funny or a good song or a good novel. Remember, it is being trained on averageness, but I'm not average. Each one of us has our own sensibility. And really it depends on what your abilities are. Creator has to understand they, as a human, are the ultimate arbiter. If all of a sudden we are ceding to algorithms completely, then I do think we lose a certain kind of agency in our lives. You can find a way to be great in your own way. I'm Bob Mankoff. I'm the former cartoon editor of The New Yorker. I was a cartoonist there for 40 years. I'm a researcher in AI and humor. I like ping pong. I'm pretty good at it. I've got a very good jump shot. I'm a person who is perpetually unhappy and dissatisfied and makes the best of it through humor. I think partly I became a cartoonist because I was pretty terrible at everything else and I was pretty good at that. I was always funny and I always drew. Did a lot of different things in the 1960s and I eventually became an experimental psychologist. But in the back of my mind, I always wanted to be a cartoonist. And at the age of 30, short of my PhD, I decided I would give it a try. And I ended up submitting about 2,000 cartoons to the New Yorker magazine before finally getting in. I ended up doing almost 1,000 cartoons for the New Yorker. And I was cartoon editor from 1997 to 2017. I was interested in computers. I bought the first Macintoshes. I started to scan them. And so in the early 1990s, I created this company called the Cartoon Bank. And the Cartoon Bank consists of all the cartoons the New Yorker rejected, because I knew that there were many very good cartoons in that. Storing cartoons on hard drives, and then when people would fax or call in, I would access those cartoons and send them to me, and they would pay for them. And the business that I now have, cartoonstock.com, is half of all the revenue goes to the cartoonist. As a cartoonist, my goal was to come up with a new idea. So maybe if you're just saying what other people are saying, what is the point of your post if you're just saying exactly what someone else is saying? Can you have a new thought on this? What I want to say in a way is that I'm a pretty ordinary person. I'm not a genius, okay? I was able to make some jokes. I hardly went to class during those years from 62 to 66. What I'm saying to everyone is, you can find a way to be great in your own way. I didn't even start being a cartoonist till I was 30. Use your youth to experiment and do everything possible. The job at the office is always going to be there, okay? Don't go there first. The caption contest on the back page of the magazine, or towards the end of the magazine now and online. And every one of these images is in and of itself funny in some way, but it's not funny like a joke. It still needs a caption to resolve it, to make the humor. So for many years, I and my assistants just looked over these thousands of captions. But in 2015, I partnered from researchers at the University of Wisconsin to crowdsource all this information. And so now there's an extensive data set in which you have all the captions ranked. And I've done a lot of AI research, and other people have done AI research on this towards the end of, can computers, first of all, distinguish? Can they be fine-tuned on this to discriminate funny from unfunny captions? And can we use this data then To generalize, the ultimate aim is to be able to give AI a sense of humor. And that was a noble effort, but that failed because AI at that time did not use large language models. It really failed on the very first hurdle. It could not look at the image and understand what was in it. Here's a mechanic talking to a clown, and the hood of the car is open, and underneath the hood are many other clowns, is also a businessman. So it couldn't understand images like that. It still has difficulty understanding images like that. So I think it failed on that score, but it did stimulate other research that I've continued to do. I still think it's not a long way from creating mediocre humor. It's a long way from creating deep, meaningful human humor. Vincent Van Hook, now he heads Waymo, he emailed me saying, it's great that we can win at Go, but we really feel that we have achieved AGI, artificial general intelligence, if we could win the caption contest. And another way to look at it is this. In the 70s, there was a genre of art which was called photorealism. It took a photo and it looked exactly like a photo, but it was a painting. And you'd be amazed by it. You would go up to that painting and look at every detail because somehow a human being had created something like that. You wouldn't look at that photo. If you look 2 years ago, people were saying, oh, it's DALL-E 3, artists are going to be replaced. I don't see artists being replaced. You know what I mean? AI is a tool, and I can see it used in a lot of interesting ways, but I would not cede to it the ultimate judgment of what you think is funny or a good song or a good novel. Even the AI or the AGI that people imagine that is robust and safe and all of that also might not be a very good thing for humanity. And somehow that makes us happy. Somehow now what are we doing? Remember, it is being trained on averageness, but I'm not average. Each one of us has our own sensibility. If all of a sudden we are ceding to algorithms completely what it is that we should like, then I do think we lose a certain kind of agency, in our lives. A human sense of humor is not about making a joke or getting it. It's rooted in our vulnerability. It gives answers to anything we can ask. And I think I find it very useful for anything that's factual. I mean, the questions I want to ask it would be the questions I would want to ask my therapist, which is, for instance, how do I deal at 80 with the diminishing capabilities, the physical deterioration, the understanding that death is real? And how do we deal with this ultimate unintelligibility of being human? But if I talk to a therapist who's my age and we had a conversation about it, there wouldn't be any answers because there is no answer. And AI doesn't know how to tell you there is no answer. In fact, it's just going to give you a lot of advice. You should exercise more. Even though you're going to die, everyone's going to die. You want to live your absolutely best life you can until you die. We don't actually want answers for anything. We want understanding. And it's only human beings who can understand that. It's like I'm married and I have a daughter, and I had a stepson, and the stepson died tragically. There's nothing a computer can tell me. There's nothing an AI can tell me or my wife about that we want to hear. We don't even want to hear from other people, but we want to hear from other people who've had a similar experience, who have endured that. So there, I think we get to the existential questions that AI is useless for, but people are very useful for. AGI is not going to have a solution for that, so that's what I'm thinking most about. Mark Twain said, the essence of humor is not based on joy, but sorrow and hurt and wrong. One of the functions of humor is for it to deal with our ultimate sorrow. So one of the main functions of humor is coping. And frankly, AI has nothing to cope with. It's like saying, well, can AI master humor? I do think you can work collaboratively with it to get it to augment human humor, okay? But to completely, let me put it another way. AI is superhuman at that game over there of chess. It doesn't even make sense to have superhuman humor. We're the judges of humor. And a big fan of it. Anyway, I hope not. Or if it does, I hope it does after I die. Okay.